Anybody else?
Could I please just beg you for one more story, maybe about Soper's Hole or like his
Soper's Hole is interesting actually because the tombstone that tells you why Soper's Hole is right up there. George Soper was a planter here, and he had a little boy called Cuthbert, and Cuthbert drowned in that bay. And if you actually go up to Towers there, you drive along the road, you come to Towers, there's that enormous tamarind tree. That's the biggest tamarind tree I've ever recorded. Tamarind trees don't grow naturally like that. As a young boy growing up in Worcestershire, on the parish boundary, which was actually on the farmland of a friend of mine, an old school friend of mine, was a big, huge oak tree, and it had been there for hundreds of years. It was the boundary oak, the parish boundary oak. Each corner of the parish had one of these oak trees, and I remember some storms brought that oak tree down one day, and Brodie, I can't remember his first name, he didn't call people by first names, but he basically, immediately a few days later, planted another oak there. Because his family had that land for many, many generations and they maintained the boundary oak. That's what those tamarind trees are here. They're boundary markers. They're one of three things. They're boundary markers where they mark the plantation. So, have you ever been up to the police station, driven up by the police station? There's a tamarind tree right in the middle of the road. Yeah. You're like, where's that tamarind tree? I've got a picture of that tamarind, a painting of that tamarind tree from the 1820s, where that tamarind tree is shown from a long distance and it's still big. That tamarind tree is hundreds of years old. It's a boundary marker. The other thing was for grave sites. Until the invention of the chainsaw, bringing down a tamarind tree was next to impossible. So if you wanted to actually protect a grave site, you would bury them in the ground and plant a tamarind tree on top. Now, if you go over to Pirates Bite there, where they have the volleyball court, you'll see a series of 3 tamarind trees in a row. Next time you're playing volleyball there, just remember you're in a cemetery. You're in a cemetery. And the other reason was because Tamarindus indicus, although it sounds like it should have come from India, it was actually an African tree and a very important spiritual tree. The large majority of enslaved people that came to the British West Indies came from the very same place, what today we would call Nigeria. Yeah, they were from the Igbo people. And that was the area that the UK or the British targeted. So, for example, our national dish here is fungi and fish. The national dish of Antigua is, guess what? Fungi. Why? In Nigeria, it's called fufu. These are the same people. Ancestrally, they're the same people. No? So, you know, in bringing those people over, they also brought the tamarind tree with them, and certainly up at the college we've got one of these because they'd be used for shade trees. So in the field areas, they'd plant a tamarind tree, and there were certain breaks that these people were allowed to take each time of the day. They would go to this tree, and for them it would provide shade, but also spirituality, because in Africa it's a very significant spiritual tree. Now, basically, this tamarind tree up here that I'm talking about will be a boundary marker, but directly on the opposite side of the road you'll see some rough land, and if you go in there and ask the owner nicely, there's a huge tombstone about the length of this table and about the same width, and it tells the story of Cuthbert Soper drowning in Soper's Hole and how devastated his parents were that they'd lost this 5-6-year-old boy. And that's why it's not called Soper's Bay, Soper's Cove, it's Soper's Hole. Here you go.